Arcadia Publishing has a series called Images of America. The Ford's Theater book consists of 200 images and text that collectively describe the entire 180-year history of the building. And in the research that we did, we found a lot of fascinating images, never before published photographs of the building at each stage of its existence, pictures of the people who have been key to the history of the building, legal documents, historic letters, maps, blueprints, all kinds of fascinating things that visually illustrate the history of the theater. And then the text and the introductions that go along with those images collectively tell the entire story. So this book is perfect for a wide range of people. If you are a one-time visitor to Ford's Theater and you learned about the events of April 14, 1865, but you want to know more, buy this book. It will tell you the entire history of the building, and it will be a great keepsake memento of your visit to Ford's Theater. If you are a Lincoln buff or a Civil War buff or an American history buff and you think you know something about Ford's Theater, buy this book, because I guarantee you it will tell you things about this theater that you did not know, and you will see things about this theater that you have never seen before. One of the things that I knew before I started the book, but I learned more about in writing the book, was that the building in which Ford's Theater presently sits was in fact a church for far longer than it was a theater. It was originally built to house the First Baptist Church in downtown Washington in 1833, and was a church from 1834 until 1859, so 25 years, 8 times as long as it was a John T. Ford-owned theater. The decision of the First Baptist Church to sell the building in 1859, after they no longer needed it, to John T. Ford to transform it into a theater was a source of great controversy among the congregation, and indeed some people from that point forward have said that the transformation of this building from a church to a theater imposed a curse on the building, which helps explain some of the tragedies that befell it afterwards. People tend to focus on the assassination of April 14th, 1865, but there are so many other things that have happened in this building that are likewise of historic interest. In 1862, there was a massive fire in this theater that totally destroyed the theater and required John T. Ford to spend 8 months rebuilding it. After the assassination and after the seizure of the building, the War Department turned it into the, in effect, first Veteran Affairs Department of the United States. For 25 years after the assassination, clerks worked in this building, 500 clerks worked in this building day after day, processing pension requests by Civil War soldiers. In 1893, the building collapsed internally due to an excavation project in the basement that deteriorated the supporting columns. And 500 workers working in that building saw 3 floors of the building collapse, killing 22 people and injuring another 65. And this is another interesting fact. Every president since Gerald R. Ford has attended at least one performance in this theater. And as a patron, and as a historian, and as a member of the public, you've got to wonder what is going through their mind as they sit in the front row of Ford's Theater and they look up at that box and they realized what happened to one of their predecessors at that spot. So there are all kinds of fascinating things that have happened at this place beyond the event for which it's known. And the book tells that story in the context of the history of Washington, D.C., and of the country as a whole. So you can see at each stage of the theater's history what was going on in the background. And if you read this book before you come to Ford's Theater and before you attend a performance at Ford's Theater, I think you will discover things in the museum and in the performance that reflect some of the history of that building that you would not otherwise discover.